Have you ever felt overwhelmed in Valorant? Sometimes it feels like there's just too much to juggle, with strategies to learn, agents to master, aim to improve, and metas to adapt to. It can all get overwhelming, but what if I told you the secret to improving your game is to simplify your approach? Today, I'll show you how the minimalist mindset can help you play better and enjoy the game more. Each section of this guide will include a viewer challenge for you to try. Let's dive into how doing less can lead to more. Agent minimalism. Let's talk about agent selection. When you try to master every agent in Valorant, you will end up learning only a little bit about each, rather than truly understanding what makes each one effective. So by focusing on just 2 to 3 agents, really allows you to hone in on their strengths, weaknesses, and quirks. If you don't believe me, take it from the all-amazing 10s.
What would you say is the best way to improve a Valorant for the average player? I would say I would only probably do like 1 or 2 agents, really. That's what I would suggest.
Think of it this way. Every agent has a unique toolkit, and the more familiar you are with it, the more you'll be able to exploit those abilities to your advantage. Conversely, the more you learn about your main agent, the better you will be at countering them when you play against them too. For example, if you want to become a Cypher main, one of the most important tools in your kit is your trapwire placements. But it's not about just slapping them across doorways, and this is something that I want to speak about. Okay, so many Cypher players, especially new Cypher players, just stick a trip like this, which is at crouched head level, so that one cannot jump over it, and one cannot crawl under it. There is a problem with this though. If you're facing an agent such as Fade, watch this. Okay, it hits the trip. Now, it makes that trip just extremely easy to be broken. As a seasoned Cypher player, things that I do is like, watch, if I stick a trip on the floor, I stick one head level, I do both, right? I don't do both at the same time, but you know, this is just an example of what you could do. It goes right through them. So this is something that I see all the time in my comment section, and people don't understand the difference between an intel trip and a kill trip, okay? So yet again, this would be more of an intel trip because people cannot crawl underneath it and they cannot jump over it. But I love to do setups with floor trips like this, and you know, when people are coming out, right? They're coming out, they're looking, they're scared of being fought over here, they're coming to peek this, and then they end up walking into this, okay? So mastering these extra techniques on some characters specifically will make you such a better player at that, and then you can counter other players. Viewer challenge. Challenge yourself to stick to just 1 agent for 5 games in a row. By game 5, you'll see how consistency lets you focus less on learning and more on winning. Utility usage. Utility is extremely powerful in Valorant, but overusing it can lead to wasted resources, missed opportunities, and getting caught with your pants down. Every ability should have a purpose. Use it for high impact moments, not just for when the enemy is nearby. Take Breach on Ascent. If you know the enemies are in A main, flashing them without a follow-up, like a teammate peeking or stopping their push, doesn't really accomplish anything. Instead, save your flash for when the enemies commit to the site. A well-timed flash can disrupt their push and leave an opening for your team. Here is an example of how powerful Breach utility can be if timed correctly. Ready? I'm stunning now.
Blinding.
I'm flashing you now?
2 top mid, 2 top mid.
Here's a challenge for you. In your next game, before using any utility, ask yourself, what is my plan for this? And if you don't have a clear answer, you should hold on to it. After each fight, then reflect, did my utility actually make a difference? If not, think about how you could use it better for next time. Next up, strategic rotations. Knowing when and how to rotate can make a huge difference in your team's effectiveness. In a minimalist mindset, you want to minimize unnecessary movement while maximizing your impact. Thus, each rotation should be a calculated decision rather than a knee-jerk reaction to every ability, sound cue, or gunfire. But as a lurker, nothing makes me more happier than seeing enemies over-rotate and allowing me to gain space and make my ready flank.
Nice, 2 up.
Here.
Nice.
Thus, before rotating, it is crucial to take a moment to analyze the situation and communicate with your team. If you are confident that the attackers have committed to a site, then make your move. But if your team is utility spamming the choke point, it might be best to stick in your position. And I have the perfect example of this. Now I ask you all, how many times have you guys seen this happen? You were on defense on Ascent and the enemies were full rushing B. So then you use utility at the choke point like mollies and smokes to slow them down. You work so hard to stop this push, but then only to have your Reyna push up cat and then mid to tiles alone. And then they die. After the Reyna dies, then the enemies just rotate to the free side. This makes me want to scream. Therefore, effective rotations not only keep you alive, but also maintain your team's ability to defend space, keep map control, and counterattack. Understanding the map, enemies' tendencies, and your team's setup will help you make those split decisions more effectively. So I challenge you, during your next games, take note of how often you rotate and evaluate whether those decisions helped you or hindered your team. We must aim for purposeful rotations if we want to rank up. And we're on to mechanics. When discussing how to improve Valorant mechanics, there is a huge focus on aim trainers like Kovacs and aim labs. And they can be helpful in some situations, but many fall into the rabbit hole of practicing drills that don't actually translate well into the game of Valorant. Remember, these external tools are games in themselves. For most players, sticking to in-game tools like Deathmatches The Range is far simpler, less daunting, and leads to a more effective path to improvement. If you play deathmatches with the intention of improving your mechanics, you can make the conditions within your deathmatches similar to those of a ranked game. For example, when you play deathmatches, pretend that you're trying to hold down a site, maybe take a site, and/or play retake on a site. By doing this, you should be peeking angles with the intention of isolating fights, aiming at head level, and practicing that smooth controlled aim that we all want. Thus, you're not just learning how to aim, you're learning how to peek properly, how to strafe, and how to read opponents' movement patterns. So I challenge you to spend 30 minutes a day doing 3 to 4 deathmatches for the next 2 weeks with the intention of improving your mechanics. Now remember, deathmatch is not about winning, it is about improving, and if you want to be consistent, you must practice consistently. Alright, onto communication. Having cluttered comms and indecision can derail your team's focus. To stay sharp, practice minimalist communication. That means keeping callouts concise and strategies simple. When making callouts, focus on what your team needs to actually know. So if you die in Garage, skip the backstory about how Sage peeked you unexpectedly. Just say, Sage in Garage. Adding unnecessary details like, I should have held that better, creates noise and distracts your team. Like, bro, I don't need your life story. Instead, stick to something short and actionable, like 2 mid, pushing. A common mistake that I see all the time is people getting stuck outside of a push. They were going to push onto A side, but then all this utility came in and it derailed their push. So at that time, half the team might think, hey, let's push in after this utility, while the other half is probably hesitating thinking, I want to rotate. But no one's actually saying anything. So this silent indecision leads to chaos. And then a lot of the time, players will just run in and die alone, while leaving the rest of the team scrambling. To avoid this, call something simple and decisive, such as, let's push A together, or hang on, we should rotate. These quick and clear callouts keep everyone aligned and prevent costly chaotic moments. So in your next games, try to keep your callouts concise, maybe under 5 words, and make at least 1 clear strategy call per map. Now remember, when you start to communicate, you will likely spark other communication from the team. It has a snowball effect. Okay, last but not least, positioning. This is one of the most crucial aspects to your gameplay. Good position isn't just where you stand, but it's how you maximize your impact while minimizing risk. Many players focus on holding a site or an angle, but minimalist players control the flow of the game by forcing enemies into uncomfortable situations. Before the round, think about where you'll position yourself and why. Learn the best spots to hold, rotate from, and the key angles to watch on each map. The more familiar you are with these positions, the better you'll be at reacting quickly and playing confidently. During the round, instead of just rushing into the open, position yourself behind cover watching common angles. The best positions give you sight lines while keeping you safe and forcing the enemies to overexpose themselves. Here is a great example of this. The key here is knowing which spots give you the upper hand and where you can safely react. Positioning isn't static though, we must be prepared to rotate or adjust when needed. Always think about where to go next and how I can maintain pressure. Lastly, positioning is about planning for contingencies. If you're holding a site and things go south, knowing where to rotate or how to keep the enemy off balance is key. Understanding the best positions and learning when and how to adapt ensures that you're ready for whatever the enemy throws at you. By mastering positioning, you can contribute to the team's strategy without overcommitting and putting yourself at risk. Don't be a thrower. So I challenge you to focus on your positioning in the next few games. I want you to experiment with angles that you're holding instead of just chasing kills. Notice how the change in your survivor rate actually helps you win so many more rounds. You can't control what your teammates do, but you can control if you throw or not. So by keeping your gameplay minimal, you can clear out the distractions, make faster decisions, and get the most value out of every move. Remember, Valorant is a game of precision and intention. The simpler, the better. Now, if you want to get better aim and mechanics in Valorant, you need to watch the video that is on your screen. Was this helpful to you?